Thank you everyone for joining us today. Welcome to Virtual Lunch with Kaley Chu number 8. I am Kaley from 100 Lunches, the author for 100 Lunches with Strangers. I'm super duper extremely excited today because, as we all know, we have a very special guest with us today. Our guest today is one of Australia's most loved award-winning actor, presenters and entertainers. I'm sure you all know him from his starring role in the movie Kenny, one of the highest grossing Australian film. He has won the AFI Award for Best Actor and now one of the judges in Australia's Got Talent. And I'm sure you all would agree, and Shane would agree, more than anything I just put together, one of his most significant achievements so far is that he is Kaley Chu's lunch guest number 200. Yay!
Was.
Yes, and just allow me to share a little bit details for our lunch end of last year, because for this lunch today, instead of talking his obvious career success and acting and things, I'd like to talk a little bit about the real Shane Jacobson. Who's Shane and how Shane's like behind the scene, behind the screen, and how he's like, because I'm very fortunate and grateful that I had the opportunity to have lunch with you, Shane, last year. And that was just a wonderful, mind-blowing experience, not because just for the food, which was fantastic. And the 2-hour conversation we had, Shane gave me his undivided attention and asked me lots of questions and showed really passion and care about who I am, even though I'm like a nobody. And he just cares about me. And our conversation changed my life literally, which we might talk a little bit more later today. And after the lunch, even I invited Shane out for lunch, he insisted to pay the bill. Very gentleman, thank you. And when he went to the cashier, he wanted to buy a book from me and give to the cashier. And then after that, some random stranger came and wanted to talk to Shane. And instead of focusing on him, Shane redirect his attention and say, hey, she is the star, which is obviously not, but Shane always wants to include me in the conversation, makes me just feel so special and feel included in the conversation. And what happens after, I'm sure a lot of people know because I put that on a YouTube video. We went back to our car together after the lunch and we found out that my car it's a little bit embarrassing. Like the front bumper actually fell off, like almost fell off. I don't know what happened. I must have hit something. And instead of like most people would have done, I'm sorry, Kaley, maybe call roadside assistant or something. Shane just said, hey, hold on a sec. And he ran into the news agent and bought a roll of duct tape and literally taped my car back together. Like, who would have done that? And he was just literally on the ground and fixing my car for me. And I remember after that, his hands were just completely black. And he did it without asking for anything. He just said, hey, Kaley, I just want to make sure that you go home safe. And that was like a wow moment to me. And that's what, to me, an incredible human being is. So thank you so much, Shane, for joining us. I think you're just absolutely incredible. So without going further, because I know I can talk for another hour, let's just not wait any longer and welcome together our special guest today, Shane Jacobson. Welcome. Yay. Do you feel welcome now?
Yay. What a fantastic introduction. I'm going to get you to introduce me to everyone. I'm going to insist you walk around with me, and before I say hello to anyone, I'll say, Kaley's going to say a few words about me. Make me feel warm and fuzzy, mate.
You have no idea how many people I talk to about you, but what's the amazing thing is that every time I talk to someone about you, they always say something incredible about you as a person and, in the film. So this is just amazing. I love it.
Well, mate, I've got to say, thank you for those beautiful words. It's incredibly kind to say the least. But I'm gonna handball the compliment over my shoulder to my parents, just to say that it's so funny when we first met. You're a delightful human, and you know that I got to sit in an audience at one of your keynote speeches, and I was emceeing an event, which was how we met. And Kaley was talking at the function, and I got to hear her story from start to finish about 100 lunches with strangers. And I was inspired. I'm always, I think most of us are similar, that I get inspired. We so often don't get inspired by ourselves necessarily, but we're inspired by watching other people's actions, because I think it's easy for us to get, not bored with what we do, but you kind of know your own story because you live it every day. But when I got to hear your story in a short snapshot, what I loved about it was, I had to overcome the fear of walking on a stage and performing in front of a crowd. But what the truth was, I had the kind of personality that wanted to go on stage, whereas you didn't. I know you didn't have that personality, and you made yourself go on stage. And my favorite thing about understanding what bravery is, and especially it's my favorite thing when it's mixed with passion, is as you know, the kind of textbook version of what bravery is when someone finds something scary and that scares them, but they choose to do it anyway. And I learned that. I had a mate I have a friend, Mark, who has no fear. He's just one of those guys. He just has no fear. And I mean, in every sense of the word. So I mean, physically, he's not scared of any person. He's not scared of any challenge. He's not scared of any obstacle. I find it quite distracting in him. And he was touring with a band. It was an Australian act, Men at Work, and he was touring through Rio, and while the crew were on tour, they had an opportunity to jump off a cliff in Rio on a hang glider. Do it tandem, so there's an instructor with you and you get to choose to do it. And my mate Mark was there, and he jumped off with his instructor and just thought nothing of it, had never done it, had no fear. But one of the other guys on the crew was terrified of heights, was terrified of jumping off a cliff. Anything that was kind of an adrenaline-based activity terrified him. And he had to go roughly at the same time as Mark. So my friend Mark was watching him, red in the face, sweating, freaking out, making involuntary noises. And yet they both jumped off the cliff. And when they got to the ground, this other crew member said to my mate Mark, he said, "You are just the bravest person I know." He said, "You're so courageous. You just have no fear." And my mate Mark said, "Oh, no, you're the brave one. Don't you get it? Like, I couldn't believe you did it." And again, this guy said, "I don't get how you see me as brave." He said, "I didn't care about jumping off that cliff. It meant nothing to me. I didn't think I was going to die. I don't know why." He said, "But you honestly felt like you were going to die, and you did it anyway." So that's what bravery is. And that's how, when I saw you on stage and heard you talking about, and we know how your book started, it's you realizing that you needed to expand your friendship group and step out of your comfort zone. So you've gone on lunch with 100 strangers, not even friends. You haven't even said, "I'm going to get a friend to recommend a trustworthy friend." You literally picked 100 strangers and chose to go to lunch with them. And then you chose to go on stage and talk about it, which is like another leap again. That's like you letting go of the hang glider, hoping there's a parachute on your back. So that's why I was so in awe of your bravery. And not only that, you're a bloody good egg to boot, which helps a lot. I like it when someone's a good person. You bolt that together, and I love it. But the thing is, I was also very distracted. I'll be honest. You kind of got access to my emotions quickly, because my mum was the one that said to me at a very young age, "Sweetheart, just so you know, there is no such thing as strangers. They're just friends you haven't met yet." And she said that to me all the way through my life. Every room you walk into, there's a chance to find another friendship, or to find a connection and share stories worth listening to. And also, believe it or not, as much as I'm talking at 100 to the dozen now, she also said, and trapped in every person's body and mind are amazing stories. Anyone that's been on earth long enough just has amazing stories. Everyone does. Even people that go, "I've got," and you tried to do it before, saying, "I'm a no one," and you're not a no one. You're so someone with an amazing story. And that's why Mum said that. My mum also said, which not always do I practice, certainly not at the moment, but she said, "You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. We're supposed to listen twice as much as we talk." So that's why I got to sit there and listen to your story. So thank you for your introduction. But there's a very good reason why people love hearing your story, because it gives them courage to try and do something out of their comfort zone.
Thank you so much, Shane. You make me feel so special now. You make me feel so good all the time, and I don't know how to explain that. Incredible. talking about mum, let me share a story that not many people know. Because that's
You're going to tell this story, aren't you?
yeah, because
Come
I
on.
love to tell people how amazing you are as a person and how great communication skills. You're like, everyone knows you're so good at talking, making people laugh, but even on a one-on-one basis, you just get me to talk because we had maybe 2 hour lunch. And what I share with you, I haven't shared with a lot of my closest friends, and no one knows about my story. And okay, this is how the whole story started. So as most people have lunch with strangers, you talk about chit-chatting. How's your family? How many kids you've got? How many siblings you've got? And Shane just asked me a question, how many brothers or sisters you've got? And I said, I've got a brother. He's 14 years younger than me. And I jokingly said, oh, it was because when I was a teenager, I was too naughty and I broke my parents' heart. And they gave up on me and want to have another brother. So that's what I said as a joke, which I said sometimes to people because we have such a huge age gap. And a lot of people just laugh about it and just keep going with the conversation. But instead of that, Shane kept asking her, why would you say that? Were you really naughty when you were a teenager? How does it work? What's your relationship with your parents? What happened? And tell me more. Like the fact that Shane cares enough about me and asked me about my family and my personal story and gave me the undivided attention and keep asking as in, he really cares about me. And then I got to share a lot more story about how my relationship with my parents, I absolutely love my parents. Then we realized that even though when we talk about bravery and how brave I was having lunch with strangers, actually in the 31 years of my life, I never said I love you to my parents. I love you, Mom. I love you, Dad, if you're watching. But I just never, ever had the courage to say so, which I don't know why. It could be a cultural reason. It never happens to me. I never give my parents cuddles, maybe the Chinese culture, I don't know. And Shane said, this is the challenge for you. You have to say I love you to your mom. And to me, that was scary. That was scarier than going on stage. And I don't know, it sounds crazy to a lot of people because that's something that you say easily to your parents. But for me, it was really, really hard. I finally put up the courage to say it on Mother's Day, which is 3 days ago. My mum laughed so much. I've never laughed that much in her entire life. I gave her a lovely speech and she literally laughed for the whole minute nonstop. I thought she would cry, but she laughed instead, which is beautiful. And she told me after and said, Kaley, I'm so proud of you for what you've done. And, I love you too. And that's just a beautiful thing. Like, who knows, lunch with a stranger would lead to my mom saying, I love you to me and I love you to my mom. That's just, thank you, Shane. That's just a little story that I want to share about how amazing.
No, it's a pleasure. And the only reason, and we spoke about it a fair bit, and because there's one thing that everyone knows this, but there comes a day when you will lose the opportunity forever to be able to tell them that. And it's because out of any relationship between any two people, once one of you leaves this earth, the opportunity is gone. And it's you can never retract it. There's so many things you can purchase, you can borrow, you can steal. But unfortunately, time's not one of them. And I was just aware, it was funny when we were talking that you were saying it's just not in you because, we share love very openly, verbally in our family. Even I was even aware at like 3 o'clock this morning, I've got 4 children. My daughter came in, she had a nightmare and said, so we said, like, quick, jump in bed. And then as she went to bed, as she was drifting off to sleep, I said, I love you, darling. She said, I love you too, Dad. And I thought that's just before her eyes closed. That's probably what she needs to hear. But we share it pretty openly, but it's a pretty good syrup for anything. They say laughter is the best medicine. As we all know, medicine is actually the best medicine, but laughter is a pretty close second. But love also is a great healer. But that's why when I was drilling you and grilling you about it, you were saying, well, of course I love her. And that's when I started saying, and does she know that? Just out of interest, does she know that? And you're like, well, I guess she would know that, absolutely. But it was what I found fascinating was that, and I did try and let you off the hook, but I did insist you had to try and find the time to do it. I said, I've got one kind of trade-off, what the exchange that I want out of this is that I'd love to hear from you at some point that you've built up the courage, no rush, but just to tell your mum that you love her. But I did say to you, I get in some relationships, we've all had, there's some, I've seen a lot of parental relationships with kids where to them to go, I love you would be really weird. But that's why I said to you, and you remember, and I loved your answer to this. After a while, it was like months later, recently when we were chatting, I did say to you, I can let you off the hook. You can, on a day, a birthday or a Mother's Day, you can say something like, I was talking about you and we're talking about the fact that we do and don't, share love or something. And you can go, but Mum, you do know I love you, right? I said, I can let you off the hook where you throw it in where they don't even have to agree. You just go, but you do know I love you, right? And then your mum can choose to go, yeah, sure. And it can be flippant, but it gets absorbed. And you said, I loved your answer, which is that you said, no, I think if I'm going to do it, I want to make it an occasion. I want it to be on Mother's Day. And you said, a bit like a wedding proposal, people can be together for a long while and everyone knows they're a couple, but when they make that speech, you want it to be a memorable moment. So I love the fact that you actually went, which again is your bravery. I gave you a way of doing it offhandedly where you still got to let her hear, I love you, so that if one day when your mum is no longer around, when you'll never have this bit. I hate the regret when someone goes, I never got to tell them I love them. I think it's a terrible sentence. And they put it in movies all the time because writers and directors meet people all the time who say, and a lot of good writers and directors try and throw into films things that humans can relate to. That's how a film becomes popular, because if people go, oh my God, I associate with that, I associate with that, I associate with that, they connect with the movie, it makes them feel special, they tell someone else to go and see it, and that's how they make money out of movies. And the reason I never got a chance to say them, I love them, or I never got a chance to say goodbye gets mentioned in so many films is it exists in so many lives. And so I love the fact that you actually built a special moment around it, and you chose not to take the low-hanging fruit or the easy road. When I said, you can say it offhandedly, you said, no, if I'm going to say it, I want to make it count. So again, see, still brave. Look at you.
Thank you so much. I hope the second time will be easier. I haven't said it the second time yet, but I hope it's easier.
One's a good start.
Yeah. I forgot what I want to say already.
Well, good, because you were listening to me, God love you, so you're a great listener. Hey, I agree. We should applaud that.
Thank you. Again, I forgot what I want to say.
Well, you did say to me you wanted to know things about me that people don't know.
Yes, absolutely. Please tell me. We'd love to know about your personal life, things that we don't see on the screen or things that we can't Google, something special.
Well, you know what? I'm going to open it up so that everyone knows this is genuine and it's not premeditated or anything. Does anyone have anything they want to ask about an aspect of my life so that they know they're getting a genuine answer, because I won't have time to invent a story? Anyone can ask. Oh, hands up there. Adrian. Adrian's got his hand up, so Adrian's got a question.
May I ask? I wanted to find out who taught you how to be a man. So you mentioned your parents is, such a great aspect. And for me, I mean, that's how I relate as well so much to Kaley's story. Everything who we are, it's all who we've learned from. So, who inspired you and who did you learn from? Because being a man is the difference between being a man and being male.
Yes. What a great question. It's, I love the term gentleman because it has the word gentle in it, and it has the word man at the back of it. And I think they're the best marriage, having a gentle man. But to answer your question, mate, it was my parents. I'm a product of my environment. There's no doubt about it. And as you know, if you spend time around water, you get wet. And if you spend time around good people, I think you get good training. And so it was my mum and my dad, and I come from a separated family. My parents were divorced when I was very young. So that was, and at that point at school, they would say there wasn't your parent or guardian. It was just every form at school said, take this form home to your parents. And I'd be thinking, well, I don't have parents at home. I have a dad who's separated from my mum. So it was actually a little bit rare when I was a kid. Now, as we know, it's as common as a breeze, but then it was a little different. So I'm not saying that affected me too badly. I had a stepfather then, and I had to learn to have a new man in the house, and we didn't always get along and all that kind of stuff. So I had all that going on. But here's the thing. What I got was great advice from everyone independently. And so my mum is a very loving mother. Also an incredibly good conversationalist. She pretty much says hello to anyone on the street, as in my wife is used to it now, but she used to find it quite strange that we'd walk anywhere with my mum and my mum would just say, hi, how are you? And just start talking to people. And my wife once said, your mum knows everyone on the streets. Everyone knows who your mum is. And my mum does know a lot of people, but I had to unveil to her once, Mum has no idea who those people are. She just says hello to everyone. It's like a mad woman, but in a beautiful way. And she said, does she really? And I went, oh yeah, she doesn't know those people. They don't know her. But when I was a kid, I was so used to going, g'day mate, how you going? It's still, it's a reaction in me now. As you know, if you throw a ball at someone's face, they actually will catch it for the most part. And interestingly, I witnessed from my mum, if you say hello to people, most people will say hello back. So the world seemed like a really happy place around my mum, but she made that because we had very little money. And on my dad's side, my dad was so poor growing up. He was actually raised in a tent until he was 21. So in Melbourne, they actually had no money. So there were migrant families with more money than my dad's family who were in Australia. That's only because my grandfather died in front of my dad at a very young age and they didn't have any money and they had lost their way of making an income. And so my uncles would go and make money and bring the money to the tent and they'd share it out enough to buy food. So my dad, so the other part to answer your question is my dad, so my mum taught me how to be passionate, to be okay with showing your emotions. She taught me how to dance. I then went on to do tap dancing and performed on stage. But here I was, a boy in the western suburbs of Melbourne. I was in Avondale Heights. I went to a very rough school. It was incredibly violent. And in a pretty violent neighbourhood. And, you know, to be on a train station at Footscray in the mid-'80s was pretty wild stuff. And so here I was, this boy that wanted to dance. I had long hair and an earring. So my dad had said to me, and my dad runs a boxing gym. So here I was tap dancing. I had my ear pierced, and in Dad's words, he said, you've got your ear pierced like a girl, you've got hair like a girl, and you want to dance. And I was in scouting and running around in uniforms. And in the morning, kids would want to pick on me because I'd be tap dancing on the front step in the western suburbs to practice tap dancing. And so he said, I guess you're going to have to learn how to fight a little bit too to be able to protect yourself. So I did two things. I did tap dancing and I did boxing, and I was a sparring partner for 13 years. But my dad had said, the only thing this is to do is to protect yourself or keep friends out of trouble, but this is not for you to go out there and fight. And my dad trains to this very day. My dad's 85, so we've got a gym that trains street kids. So we teach respect to street kids. And so my mum, I had, you know, so now getting to the core of your question, who taught me how to be a man? I had my world split in half, which is my mum teaching me how to love and be gentle. And my dad tells me he loves me all the time. In fact, this is part of why I was so hell-bent on, you know, Kaley just telling her mum she loves her, because I said to her, I, at a young age in the western suburbs, never wanted to have to hide the fact that I loved my father. Never wanted to hide it. In fact, I got quite angry that people would go, oh, if you're going to kiss another man, it makes you gay. I don't even know why it would be a problem to kiss another man. I don't know why that makes you gay. I don't even know why being gay is such a problem if you choose to be that, or it's what you are. I never understood all that. And so, in fact, I decided to make my own stand, and I would kiss my dad every time I saw him and every time I said goodbye to him. So my dad, the boxing coach, I still kiss him on the lips, on the cheek, love you, Dad. And mates at school would say, did you just kiss your dad? Or mates would go, did you just kiss your dad? And I know what's coming next. And I go, yeah, absolutely, I kissed my dad. And before they got a chance to speak, I would get in first and go, yeah, because that's how close I am to my dad. And if you don't have that close relationship with your father, I pity you. I pity you. And of course, they're ready to have a go at me and went, oh, hang on, he seems quite proud. I think I'm supposed to go, oh, no, I didn't kiss him. I wouldn't do that. But there was no way I was going to do that. So that I was willing to stand up for how much I loved my parents and how much they loved me. I was aware, because of friends' circumstances, how lucky I was to have that. But I was allowed to be a man and show openly that it's okay to kiss another man and affectionately express the way you feel. And that doesn't make you not a man. In fact, in my opinion, it makes you more of a man. And so, you know, it's a beautiful question you ask, because it tends to come from a gentle heart in my experience, those kind of questions. But that's how I was taught how to be a man. And that is a real man is willing to show his feelings. And it does help, as I was told, it helps in a relationship. It helps in a marriage. And being a man doesn't mean you have to, you know, some people think it means you're supposed to stand your ground. Well, and stand like this. Not if you're wrong. So that's why I think some men misunderstand. You just be a man. And it's like, but what if I'm wrong? Do I still stand like this? No, you should not stand like that. That's not what a man is. So yeah, it was my parents. And am I trying to do the same with my kids now? I absolutely am. I try to, they have to, even now I don't allow anything that's too much with play fighting amongst the boys or the kids. Play fighting's fine. And I'm fine with that. I used to box. I mean, I can show you all now. I mean, that's the result of being in a boxing ring. You know, I've been hit a lot, more hits than the Beatles. But, you know, my kids now, if it gets a little bit too rough, I do go, there's a limit to how much I like this kind of fighting. If you're having fun, like our dogs do, we've got 3 dogs and chickens and lots of animals. When they're rolling around and go, roo, they're having fun. But I said, if it gets to a snarl, then that's a fight, and I don't like it. That's only for protecting yourself. So it's funny, I have rules around how far I want them to go, and they have to. If anyone gets really upset in our family, it drives them mad. My kids, I can see them roll their eyes because they know what's coming next. They have to walk up and hug their sibling and say, I'm so sorry. And they have to mean it too. And if I can sense they don't mean it, I sit down with them and go, I can sense that you're just doing this because I've asked you to. I need you to recognize why you need to apologize. And so until they actually go up and go, no, I'm genuinely sorry, because that's the other thing is, I think some men, not you, because you're the kind of person that asked this question, which means you have a gentle heart, but I think some men need to know that we're going to be wrong. And I think they have to park ego and accept, because it'll help in a marriage, to go, I'm wrong. And they need to get rid of, we get taught to puff our chests so often. And movies portray it too, but I actually think we need to physically lessen our demeanor in moments and go, oh, actually, you know what? I'm so, you know, I love hands up. That actually means surrender. There's a reason that's why the international sign for surrender is that, which is see my hands. There's no weapon in them. There's no attack here. I'm so sorry. And so I also think that's part of what makes a really good man, is being able to say, I was wrong actually, and I'm really sorry for that.
I absolutely love the answer. I think this is, wow, we should have more men like you. Like when I met you, I can feel that you're very empathetic and you're very caring and you're tentative and you listen, like with all those traits that more like feminine traits, but I feel like you're extremely masculine. When I, sit opposite to you, I feel like I'm protected. I feel like I don't need to worry about anything, because if something happens, something wrong, Shane will protect me. That's the feeling that you give to me. So just being passionate and not compassionate, like compassionate and empathetic or caring, still makes you like a gentleman, a very masculine gentleman, in fact. So yeah, thank you for the answer. That was a great answer. I love it.
Well, I heard a line recently, and it was actually said by an American comedian called Dave Chappelle, who's quite an abrupt comedian. He can swear a lot and all that sort of stuff. But when he got his Mark Twain Award for comedy, he actually said in his closing speech, his mother, who was an incredibly learned woman, who'd actually studied, I think she's actually studied, she might have even had a PhD in African-American history. She actually said to her son, sometimes you need to act like a lion so that you can be the lamb that you really are. And the way I decipher that is, and I do like that, don't get me wrong, I do love the fact that I have learned how to box, because I do internally feel like I can protect my loved ones and people around me. I never want to use it. That's not my personality. But I can't deny the fact. If you said to me, is it nice to know that I'm a big frame? It actually is. And men get applauded for being big. It's a horrible opposite end of the seesaw. You know, a woman's worst dream is to be called. Imagine if someone walked up to a woman and said, "G'day there, big lady." They would go, that feels terrible. But it's the opposite thing with a man. That's why men like me are okay with carrying a bit of weight, because it's a compliment. They go, "G'day there, big fella." Now that is a compliment. But if a woman heard that, "G'day there, big lady," they go, "Jesus Christ, I'm going to have to go on another 17 diets." But, and I'm one of those guys. I'm on 3 diets because I can't get enough food out of one. So I like being the bigger guy, and I like knowing I can protect my pack. But I love that expression. Sometimes it's nice to act like the lion so that you can be the lamb that you really are. Because the concept of a gentle lion would be my favorite thing if I had to like be painted as a cartoon character. I'd love to be a lion that can walk around but literally have the heart, the soul, and the actions of a lamb. And that's how I like to parade myself around. I don't want to show any aggression. I want to show love and compassion. But the thing is, there's no doubt about it, I have been in moments where someone has gone, "Oh yeah, what do you think you're talking about?" where I have to look at them and I have, we've all got our own sentences where I have to say things like, please, do us all a favor here and don't mistaken my kindness for weakness. And you'll be amazed at, some men who then look in my eyes and go, oh, hang on, I think I might have crossed the line here. And I go, yeah, don't ever mistake my kindness for weakness, because that's not what's going on here. But some men need to be reset like that. But I love hearing what you said, Kaley. That's my ultimate compliment. My wife has said to me, she has never, ever, ever felt anything but loved and protected. And she said to me a few times, I'm away a lot. She says, when I come home, she goes, I sleep so much better when my bear's in bed. Now, I've got to tell you, I go to bed pretty happy when she says, I've got my bear in bed beside me. She said, I can sleep, isn't it funny? I love that. That is the perfect scenario, that I have a wife that feels safe and loved, but there's a great big bear in bed next to us. So, I love feeling that, and I love hearing that.
Yeah, and not to mention that gives better hugs too. You feel like you're so wrapped around and protected.
Exactly.
It's great. Yeah, we would love to know more about your personal life, Shane. What do you do when you're not working? I know you've got a very busy life, but what's a perfect Sunday afternoon for you?
Oh, family. I'll be honest, coronavirus has actually provided me with a chance to spend time. I'm fortunate enough, as you know, Kaley, to live in Mount Macedon, and I'm on 6 acres. So, I've got 4 kids that when I'm as busy as, and believe it or not, even now, this is actually not my house. I've just finished filming something I had to film today, and the crew have been packing up quietly. In fact, one of them smashed the lamp just before I came on. He said, we'll be really quiet. And I said, thank you. And as he said that, he was backing away and with a light, knocked over a whole lampshade that crashed. And I went, that doesn't seem very quiet to me. So, as you know, I'm pretty busy quite often, but I have, the perfect Sunday for me is, and I know it sounds cliche, but because I'm away a lot, I mean it more than most. Being at home, we have a fire pit outside. We light a fire. We all rug up in winter, and we go out there, and my kids literally cook marshmallows on the fire. They've all got their own marshmallow stick, and so that's pretty perfect. But I've got hobbies that, so that I'm not giving the obvious answers. So always family first. But motorsport is a thing. I'm a car nut. There's no doubt about it. My second book that I wrote is called Motoring Tragic. It's called Revhead. My life as a motoring tragic. So I have old cars, old Holden cars, and I've hosted Top Gear and a lot of car events. But in fact, racing cars and doing off-road rallying and racing cars is a bit of a hobby of mine, and motorcycles. I'm an Indian ambassador of Indian motorcycles. So I don't get a lot of time to do that. But if you said, if I wanted to disconnect my brain, and other than being with family, what brings me joy, it's actually, it is driving at silly speeds. And for some reason, there's a disease called motor enthusiasm, and I am not trying to find a cure for it.
I'm sure a lot of people can relate here. John will be one of them. He's a massive, crazy car person. And then just completely curious, because I remember during our lunch, it was just like 2 hours long. We had 2 or 3 people coming just to come and talk to you. So how is life like when you can be recognized everywhere? Because I know you mentioned you love your family, and when you go out and have a family gathering or family outing, how does it work for you? Does it being disturbed and being, people come and talk to you all the time?
Yeah, they do. You do get people do collide into you quite a bit, for the want of better terms. It comes with the territory, so to speak. And what I do find is 99% of people are really lovely. If the great news is, if my life was to be called an experiment, that the answer is good. That 99% of people, it may even turn out to be more than that. It's one of those things where it might be 999 out of 1,000, which is an even better stat. But for the most part, people are really good. You don't want to be out late past, 10:30 is the magic number. As you know, there's an old joke that nothing good happens after midnight. And I can assure you that 10:30 is the, if I'm at a function and it's time to leave or walk the streets, or if I was in a bar or something, not that I'm the guy that goes to a bar, me and my wife would go to a restaurant, but if I'm speaking at a function and that Kaley, after we do an event, you end up they say we're having drinks after the dinner tonight or something. 10:30 is when people, some of their manners are eroded away a little bit. And that's when they'll come up and put their arm around my neck, and I don't know them, and go, get it, and they start to wrestle me, and you go, this has become quite tactile. And then someone says hello, Jaco. So someone there knows me because there's so my nickname is Jaco. There you go. So if they're not saying Kenny, they call me Jaco. They are old friends. But yeah, sometimes they go, come on, mate, come on, have a drink with us. And I go, oh no, I'm all right. I've already got a drink. Nah, let me buy you a drink. Hey, come on, it's Kenny. And so it gets a bit boisterous. So 10:30, I've learned over the years, 10:30, once at 10:15, everyone's all right. But about 10:30, an alarm rings in people's heads, and even people who are shy, who are intoxicated, they'll spend the start of the night going, oh, I should leave him alone, let him do his thing. And then by 10:30, they go, you know what? He won't care. And then they start going, you must love this. And so that's when it's only that after 10:30 thing that it gets a bit loud. And people are more keen to yell stuff at you than actually ask you a question that they want the answer to. At that point, they're there for their experience. So I just learned after 10:30 that's probably, it's probably a good time to not be somewhere, to get back into a room and lock the door. But the truth is, people are usually pretty good when I'm with the family. On my own, I get stopped a lot at airports. I can get stopped for photos 10, 15 times just trying to get to my bag. But here's the thing, is that it is part of what happens when you get a recognisable head. I do think the word celebrity is a bit wrong. I think a celebrity should be Hugh Jackman or Robert De Niro. I think you should get to a very certain level. I don't think you should be a reality TV star or an entry-level talent and be called a celebrity. I think that should be, like I said, it should be Elvis Presley was a celebrity. You know what I mean? It should be world famous. The Beatles are celebrities. I think up until then, everyone should just be called a recognisable head. And I think that would level them out to go, you're just a recognisable head, mate, walking around with a head we recognise. And then I think you should get to a point where the world say, like someone gets knighted, you are now officially a celebrity. And like I said, in this country, we're talking the Hugh Jackmans, Olivia Newton-Johns, that should be kept for them, Paul Hogan's, But then I think I reckon you've got to do 20 years in the trade, and the world has to accept that you're a good person before you get knighted celebrity. So as a recognisable head, one thing I've realised is people, for the most part, just want to say hello. They usually want to hand you a compliment, which is an incredibly nice thing, to go, I love that film you did. And it does, and they go, look, you've probably heard this 1,000 times, a million times, but I loved Kenny. And I go, but I hadn't heard it from you. Thank you so much. Now I've heard it from you as well, which is lovely. And I've always said, I think it is far better to be remembered for something you tried than forgotten for everything you had to go at. So I've done some things that I'm remembered for. And if that means people, all they want to do for that is stop me. I mean, if they're telling me that they like my movies or they like what I do, they have spent hours watching something that I've done. And I've not spent 1 second going to their work to see them do great work. So if the most I've got to pay for that with each person is them to stop and say something nice to me, I think it's a pretty cheap way of having to spend your life. It's as in a lovely way. That's not an expensive thing to pay for. That's in fact something being handed to me. It's a gift. So I think it's a pleasure and an honour, and I think it would be odd to complain about it. Does it interrupt my life? Yes. But is that a bad thing? No.
Wow, I love it. Jodie just mentioned, love your humble energy, Shane, and I completely agree with that. You're such a humble, recognisable head. I love it.
See? Hey.
Yeah, recognisable
head.
I think John's got a question for you. John, did you say you want to ask a question?
Hey, g'day, Shane. How you going?
Yeah, good, mate.
Love your work, mate. Thank you. And share your passion for cars, so that's also awesome. Hey, we've had so many questions from the audience, so I have to apologise to everybody. We won't get time to ask all the questions. I'm sorry. So, but there's some pretty good ones. You mentioned you have 4 kids, and I'm sure in your work you come across heaps of kids. And kids have a way of saying the truth, even when they shouldn't. So the question is, what's the funniest or the strangest thing a kid has ever said to you?
Oh, my God. It's thousands of them. My brother was smart enough to keep a book of the things his son said. My nephew, one of the funniest things my nephew said, one day he just looked at my brother and he said, it's a little bit disappointing, this world. And he said, what do you mean, son? He said, I was expecting more. And he said, from the world. And he said, yeah, you know, before I was born, I was just expecting more from the world. And Clay said, well, I'm sorry on behalf of the world that it's disappointed you. And my nephew said, I think I'm ready for the next one. He said, the next world. He said, yeah. So we said, well, might get you to spend a bit more time here first. So I just love that in his imagination, there'd just be another world. My own kids say, I'm using stuff all the time. My youngest son is autistic, so he only speaks in truth, which is so amusing. I love it. I wouldn't, it's funny, me and my wife talk all the time that I adore his autism. And if someone walked through the door right, you know, today and said, I'm here to press a magic button or a magic wand and change your son, I'd say, get out of the house. Don't you touch my son. That's my son. That's how he is. His autism it's just straight. So even down to, you know, at school, one of his first days at school, at the end of the day, a kid walked past and said, see you tomorrow, bro. And so he says honest things all the time, but he takes things literally. So he's like, you're not my brother. My mother is not your mother. That's a lie. So I spend my life walking around with a little truth machine so you can't say, come on, son, pull your socks up. Because he'd say, I'm not wearing socks. And you go, oh, that's right. He's going to take it literally. So I find his truth amusing all the time. But you are right, kids. Even when I did little big shots with the kids, it was just hilarious. At one point I said to one kid who was a German guest, a young kid, and I said, you know, what's your favorite joke? You got a joke you love telling? And he said, I'm German, we don't do jokes. And I said, everyone has a sense of humor. He said, Germans don't. Now that was from a German kid. I couldn't stop. Honestly, it took me like a minute to get my composure back because that was funny in itself. And I think he meant it. I think his parents had said to him, a lot of people don't think we have humor.
I worked in Germany for a couple of years. I can confirm that to be a fact. It's okay. Even at the Audi factory, they didn't have a sense of humor. It's okay.
Das Auto, yeah. Automobile, yeah.
Technique, that's the one.
Auto Technique is
a darker sense of humor.
Definitely. Awesome. Hey, speaking of kids, if you could go back to young you, I know you said you had some really good advice and some people who helped you along the way, but now with your experience, and I imagine it's pretty broad experience across the world and with all the people you've met and all the things you've done, what would you go back and tell little Shane?
I wouldn't go back and tell him anything because I think that sense of not knowing is what creates bravery and stuff. I
love that answer. That's what I was kind of hoping you'd say.
Yeah, I'd never go back. If someone said, if you walk through that door, young you is in there, I'm like, no. Now, in order to be me, he can't know. He has to give stuff a go. If I went in there and said, you know, mate, if you've got dreams of becoming an actor, you just stick at it. He might go, oh, so it's going to go well for me. The only way to succeed at stuff is to actually go, this is going to take some real commitment. And I wouldn't tell myself, I'd not open that door. I mean, I'd love to go and see myself again, but hey, that's called photos. But I'd love to go see the moving version of myself. But if I did, I'd go in disguise just to walk past myself out of interest to see what I moved like as a kid, because we didn't, as we all know, we were all sort of, most of us are too old to have had lots of video footage of us. You know, my parents couldn't afford a movie camera, God. But yeah, I wouldn't go and tell myself anything. I've got to go and learn that stuff. I've got to walk into every room not knowing what's going to come out of it, but no, to get the best out of that room, I have to be the best version of myself in that room. So I hate free passes, and I hate, you know, and I hate detours, you know, and the only detours I like is when someone goes, I know we promised you this was going to be a bitumen road, but you've got to go down that dirt track. And you go, how long is that dirt track? And they go, we have no idea. Then you go, all right, let's try the dirt track. My dad said of my personality once, he when I was backpacking Europe, I've done it a few times, I would have been 20 or something. And my dad said to my brother, have you heard from, so my dad calls me, my big brother, Buffalo Head, and me, pint-sized Buffalo Head. And he said, have you heard from Pint Size? And my brother said, yeah. He said, where is he? And he said, he's in, and I didn't tell Dad that I was going there because I knew he'd be worried. He said, well, I'll tell you the truth, Dad, he's in Belfast. And my dad said, God, that brother of yours, he said, I swear to God, if Shane walked down a corridor and someone said, in that door to your left, it's filled with poisonous snakes, and in that room on the right is the most glamorous woman you've ever seen, and she's quite keen to meet you. He said, your brother would choose the door of snakes every time out of pure curiosity. just to see, is there really that many snakes in there? And he said, and so I will be honest, sometimes I go, I'm going to have a crack at that. And I do reckon not knowing what's on the other side of something is the thing that makes you try harder or be your best version of yourself on entry. So, yeah, so I wouldn't go back.
What a great philosophy. I always think of it in terms of the matrix. You know, if you go back and you change one thing, you just never know what else is going to change as a result. So why would you go back and change something, you know?
It's funny, John, me and my wife had this chat the other day. So I am very blessed. I have actually found my soulmate. I found my best mate. We get, like, seriously, I get it. I'm lucky. If someone goes, what's the secret? I have no idea. I'm so blessed. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to overcomplicate it, but she loves me for who I am, and she's fine with all my mistakes. And there's quite a few there to forgive. No, she likes my appearance. She likes my humor. She doesn't care that I snore. I mean, there's a lot of non-beautiful stuff going on around me, and she tends to find some charm in it. But we chatted the other day. We had that chat going, we couldn't change a day out of fear that it would send our direction off kilt, because, as you know, it took us 40 odd years to meet. That if you change the angle of the Earth by point, that thing, if you change the angle of the Earth by 0.00001 of its axis, you'd be amazed in the change. We met at one moment standing beside each other at an awards night, in a 1 or 2 minute encounter. And for us to pass like that, for two comets to rub shoulders, the perfect size comets to rub shoulders in the universe at that exact same moment, I'm not going to change my trajectory at all.
I love it. It's so good. Shane, we've got so many questions for you, but I'm aware of the time, so I prepared 25 super quick rapid questions for you so that we can learn a little bit more about you in the shortest period of time. Are you ready?
Yes.
Just quick question, no explanations. Start with something simple. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Wine or beer?
Yes, please.
Ford or Holden?
Holden.
Carlton or Collingwood?
I'm happy for you to get rid of either of them. No, I'm happy for my team to beat both of them, yes.
Okay. I know the answer for this one. Coles or Woolworths?
IGA.
Cars or motorbikes?
Yep. I'll have both of those, thank you.
Apples or Android?
Apple, definitely.
Cookies or cake?
Cookies.
Yoga pants or jeans?
Oh.
Depends who's wearing them.
Yeah, what was the first one?
Yoga pants or jeans?
I'll go yoga pants. I honestly thought you said yogurt pants, and I went, that must be new and groovy. I'll never know what that means.
Sorry, English is second language. Phone call or text?
Phone call.
Leader or follower?
Depends on who I'm in the room with. If I was in a room with Nelson Mandela, I'd shut up and listen. But when I'm in a room with my own kids, they need some leadership. So both.
Good answer. Organised or messy?
Organised, but organised chaos.
Burgers or salad?
Salad, never heard of it. So not two burgers.
Plan or spontaneous?
Both. Luck prefers a prepared mind.
Night owl or early bird?
Well, in my industry, the answer is I want to be the night owl, but I have to be the early bird. So I enjoy the night owl, and the alarm is like razors in my ears. So I'm both, but I only enjoy the night owl bit.
What time do you get up though?
Well, you'll have to speak to my kids. It's when they want me to be up. So my younger son comes in talking from the second he wakes up. His story starts as his eyes open, he starts telling a story. There's not necessarily any framing for it. And he walks in our room saying, anyway, so I had this dream. And so it starts. So the day starts halfway through one of his stories.
Realist or dreamer?
I'm a dreamer, realistically.
Okay. Homemade food or restaurant?
So Sunday night home, I do a roast at home. I love that. But on a Friday and Saturday night, I've got some favourite restaurants. If I could go to them, I would. So I have to call it a line share.
Shower or bath?
Shower.
Big party or small gathering?
Small gathering.
Skydiving or bungee jumping?
Oh, done both. Bungee jumping terrified me. So my heart is still at the top of a rope 12 stories somewhere in Vegas. It fell out of my chest and I've not had it back since. Parachuting is fantastic. So definitely parachuting.
Boxers or why I've got this question? Boxers or briefs?
Briefs.
Board shorts or budgie smugglers?
Board shorts. Definitely board shorts. Unless you have a ribbon around your neck with a bit of gold hanging off it in the form of a medal, you shouldn't be in Speedos. Unless you are literally at an event called the Olympics, you shouldn't be in Speedos.
Toilet paper, over or under?
Over. Absolutely over.
Oh, weird list of questions I've got. Cups in the cupboard, right side up or upside down?
Oh, they're supposed to be upside down, but we keep them right side up. But they are supposed to be upside down.
Weird.
But the only thing is, I will say, they're supposed to be upside down. We all know why. So the dust or particles don't fall into the cup. But then the actual bit that goes on your mouth, you are pushing across a dirty surface. So you tell me. It's the same as, believe it or not, if you were asked to lick a door handle at gunpoint, the one you should choose is the one inside your bathroom. Because the one on the way in, you touch with dirty hands. The one on the way out, for most of the time, you've washed your hands. So the cleanest door handle is the one in your bathroom on the inside. I know. It's ridiculous stuff to know, but I spoke to a germatologist, is what I'll call him, in America for a TV show once, and he told me that.
I love it, but that's only assuming people wash their hands. And I read a survey somewhere, especially in the male toilet, I don't know. Not everyone wash their hands. Last two, weird or normal?
Oh, weird.
Truth or dare?
I like the truth, but life ain't no fun without a dare, and that's the truth.
I love it. I'm not going to ask you anything crazy today. We'll leave it for next time. So on the scale of 1 to 10, how weird are you?
Oh, I'm not. I'm. So it depends on what you call weird, but don't forget, whatever you are is your own version of normal, but it doesn't make it match someone beside you. It's like that great thing that says, 1 in 3 people are mad. Look to the person to the left of you and then look to the person to the right of you. If they look all right, it's you. Because you don't know if you're crazy. You don't. That's actually the definition of crazy. So I think there's things I choose to do in moments where my wife goes, I have no idea what made you think of doing that, but I'm so glad you're doing that. But I don't know if that makes me insane. It does make me a little bit spontaneous, which is one of your questions. But, there's some things I do with my kids that other people go, do you really say those things to your kids? I've said, people are not going to like this. I'm going to say one thing controversial. I've had conversations with my kids along the lines of this, and some of you will go, that's terrible, Shane. But when they've gone, where's mum? I've gone, she's just gone down the road, just down the shop to get some milk and some bread. And she's coming back with some lunch for us. And then like 2 minutes later, they come back, I said, where's mum? And I go, she's down the shop. She's gone to get lunch for us. She's getting some food. And then they go, oh yeah. And they get distracted and come back and go, where's mum? And I go, where do you think she is? They go, I don't know. Just tell us where she is. I said, she's down the shop. And then they'll come back and go, where's mum? And I go, she's dead. She's dead. Mum's dead. And then they all freeze and they go, oh, that's right. She's down the shops. And they walk off. Because when I say something shocking, it makes them go, well, that can't be right. And I've had people go, did you just say that? And I go, yeah, it's fine. They'll know she's not dead. But it does mean you're not happy with the answer I've given you, and I've given you the same one 3 times. So maybe you should figure it out. So when I say that things, I've had people go, that's insanity. And I go, not really. But I don't recommend everyone does that to their kids because you'll freak them out. But my kids are used to me saying incredibly insane things. But interestingly, I've heard, what I love about that is when people try and tease them, we say ridiculous things. They'll come out of a room and I'll go, really? You've come out with that face on? I could have sworn I made a better one than that. Ridiculous things and as a result, when kids try and tease them or say things to them, my kids just don't get hurt. So believe it or not, my madness has actually made them a little bit more robust, I hope.
I'm sure they are.
I'm guessing your kids would have more one-liners than most other kids at school, eh?
crazy thing, John, you said, crazy things your kids said. Here we go. When we had 3 children and we knew that my wife was pregnant with a 4th. So I've got 1 from a previous and our 3 and my eldest was at our place and we sat the 3 kids down and said, we've got something very exciting for you. We just wanted to let you know that Mum is pregnant with another baby. And my eldest son said, and the nightmare begins. That's very funny. So, yes.
Oh, thank you so much. Sorry, go, John.
I was going to say, we have so many other questions for everybody. Apologies to the people whose questions I didn't get to ask. I know Kaley has 2 more questions, I think, that she wants to ask.
I'm aware of the time, so I just like to ask you, Shane, is there any questions that I should have asked you, but I haven't asked you yet?
No, I thought they were great questions. I love, there's nothing better than when someone leaves your house or leaves a restaurant and turns around and says, you know what, I've really enjoyed tonight's meal, or I've really enjoyed being here. Thank you. So I would hate to have you feel like there's something that was missing from this call, because I'd like to think it was 100% complete.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this lunch. This is amazing. Thank you so much, Shane. Is there anything you want to share with our audience? Something coming up, some movies, something, I don't know, something you want to share?
Yeah, I used to be in a thing called entertainment. That was fun while it lasted. But look, there is, the saying Australia's Got Talent will come back at some point. I do have 2 movies. I'm working on a documentary at the moment, which is about the 50th anniversary of the collapse of the Westgate Bridge, which is a project that I'm funding myself, only because it's a passion project. It was the largest loss of human life in an industrial accident in Australia's history. So I've got that documentary coming out. And I've got a movie with Paul Hogan and Chevy Chase and John Cleese and Olivia Newton-John that was due to come out, called The Very Excellent Mr. Dundee, but that's been postponed until further notice. And because that was due to come out BC, before Corona. And then another one with Jack Thompson and Dennis Waterman, who played a character called Minder on TV, for those that may remember. Anyway, amazing cast. So that's coming out again once coronavirus settles down. So yeah, there's a bit coming out.
Is there anything we can do for you? Because we loved you've given us your time. That was so great. Is there anything we can do for you, or something to show support or something?
No, I didn't give you my time. Everyone on this wonderful chat gave me theirs. You said lovely things about me, and I got a chance to have people ask me questions and show interest in me. So it was a very one-way street. So no, you don't have to thank me. I want to thank everyone for taking their time to listen to me bang on about my world, because it's incredibly generous of people to go, I'll spend an hour where, they've got to sit here and hear my theories on things, because it doesn't make them right. So no, thank you. I want to thank everyone for being on this call. I think it's gorgeous. And I'm not surprised one bit of the kind of people you have on your chats, Kaley, because it's the kind of people you attract.
Thank you so much. And one very last question. If you could have lunch with anybody in the world, who would that be?
It'd be you and all your friends that are on here right now.
Oh, thank you.
Because all the people I really want to have lunch with, I've had them. Oh, look, I will say I would love to have had lunch with Mandela, is the truth. And just to absorb, just to touch his arm in the hope to absorb some of his spirit. But it would be my wife, because she's still my best mate. So, but then if she says she wants to go and have, dinner with John Lennon, I'll go on her dinner and meet John Lennon.
Thank you so much. I love how you mention your wife all the time during our lunch during today. This is just how great that is, that a man loves his wife so much, and this is very unusual, but a very, very lovely way.
Yeah, she's pretty awesome though. It's pretty easy to brag about her. It's not me being cool. She's awesome. The only thing I don't respect about her is the fact that she chose me. Other than that, she's awesome. She's even smart. She's beautiful, but she's also smart. She's a lawyer. I mean,
yeah. We have that in common.
Oh, you got a lawyer for a wife too? I know. Smart, attractive. They're not 2 words that have ever been said about me. That's why I wanted to find something that had those words.
And they're entitled to make at least one mistake in their life in choosing us, right? That's okay.
We'll give it to them. Free kick.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Shane. Thank you so much for joining us today. Can everyone give Shane a virtual clap? Yay! Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Love you.
Love you too, mate. See everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. That was awesome.